We've got 5 bills on the agenda. We're going to add one. And as we go down through there, we're going to get, some of the presenters are not going to be here, and I'm just going to just briefly tell the committee what it does. We'll be moving pretty quick. We'll make motions to do pass as we get to them. We'll start off with House Resolution 1610. That is the Crime Victims' Rights. If you'll find that in your file, committee. That is Chairman Don Parsons. And this is a study effort to protect crime victims and ensure welfare and healing of those who are victims of crimes. This is one of those, just like it says in line 4, we're one of 18 states that does not guarantee victims' rights. And Chairman Parsons wants to look at that. He had a meeting where he brought it to committee. Committee kind of worked on him, and so he wants to take a look at it. And I think it's just one of those good things. I think all of us know that crime victims do need to have some rights, and we look forward to hearing what they have to say to that. So, any questions for me from the committee? Yes, sir, Representative.
Just whenever you ready for a motion.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee? I need a motion for due pass.
Move due pass.
Representative Prince, due pass in a second. Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Let's keep on moving. Thank you. Next is House Resolution 1367. I don't know if Representative Taylor is here. She's told me she might be. This is the Pharmacy Benefit Managers Process Study Committee. I know that if any of you are, do you find yours?
I don't have it.
I got it.
It was in the very end of my packet. Okay, good. I think when you look at our budget, everything, you look at the amount of money we spend in pharmacy benefit, it's something to review. And I think Darlene Taylor, it's a business she's in, she really wants to look at it. And I think in a very positive manner, looking at the programs, improving efficiency and transparency in the claims processing area. And she's just a great one to do this, and I look forward to what she has to give to us in the study committee report. I'd entertain a motion to do pass. Well, first, are there any questions from the committee? I do. Yeah, excuse me. I just saw that blinking light. Excuse me.
I do.
Ms. Sandra?
And looking at this in the health study committee.
See you later.
I guess looking at this, I'm wondering, because I have heard over TV that in different areas people pay different prices for different drugs. So I would like to talk to Representative Taylor, and I will tomorrow, to see if they're going to be looking at that, make sure that pharmacies are not charging people in different areas different prices for drugs.
Well, I know she looked forward to talking with you. She's very open and very knowledgeable about this subject matter. Like I said, I'd entertain a motion to pass. Thank you, sir. How about a second? Thank you. All those in favor, aye. Any opposed? Thank you, committee. Next, we'll look at House Resolution 1093, and we'll let Ms. Alexander, sitting right there, come up and tell you about hers. Thank you, Representative Alexander. And before you get started, you have a sub in 1093.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to thank the chairman and the committee for taking the time to hear this House resolution. This is a study committee, and I want to start by saying that the way it came about is that the Douglas County delegation meet with the elected officials every year annually, just to go over any type of legislation that they may have, and just for communication and building a relationship. One of the main concerns that was brought to our attention during that time, and that came from the county commissioners, it came from law enforcement, they were, we have taken on this accountability court. We have the mental illness court, we have the drug court, but at the same time, the jails are inundated with lots of people that have mental illness, and the counties are complaining that they have no place to put these individuals. So I went back and I started to research, and I didn't want this just to be about my area. When I started to research and I provided you guys a great deal of stats that you can see that across Georgia we have thousands and thousands of adults that have mental illness. And so what this study committee will do is look at a place to house these individuals, but not only house them, but also treat them. So that's what the bill is short and simple. If you look on page 2, I'm even providing you stats that the Georgia Sheriff Association is providing. And they're saying that they travel nearly 2 million miles and spend more than 12,000 hours transporting mental health patients. And so that's what this bill is really to help the counties that their jails are full of mental illness individuals, and just trying to find a way that we can help the counties with a facility for treatment. I've also spoken with DBHBDD, the commissioner, and I've also met with the Georgia Association. I met with the director. I've also met and talked to Commissioner Berry on this bill, so he's well aware of this bill. So is the Georgia Sheriff Association, and they both agree that we need to do something about the mental illness issue. And that's it in a nutshell, unless there's any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, ma'am. One thing, we're working off LC. There's 2 of them in your packet. We're working off 37-2047. There are 2 of them in there. We're working off 2047. Does that helps answer any questions? You've got some questions down number 9.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So at the end of the day, when you all finish, I see you have 9 members. You all will be coming back for making recommendations to this body as to what,
Yes.
how to address this particular issue.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, at the appropriate time, I'd like to be recognized for a motion.
Okay, thank you. Next. I don't know who was next. We'll just let you go next. 15 was next. Thank you. Who's 15?
Right here.
Dominic.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for bringing this. One of the things that I have talked to people about across the district when they bring up the issue of mental illness, I've talked to professionals, served with a senator that was recognized as a champion for mental illness. And I think the only thing we really understand about mental illness in some cases is that we don't understand it.
Correct.
And I say this carefully, very carefully, because when I was little, ADHD was just kind of coming along. And it has gotten to the point to where every child is ADHD, particularly the ones who behave badly and make bad choices. In the area of studying mental illness as it relates to criminals, I am concerned that we will find that they are using the excuse of mental illness to cover up the consequences of bad choices. And so I hope you hear my heart in that. I totally understand that there are situations, there are people who suffer. But I do believe also that mental illness can be a result of very bad choices that are made in relation to addiction and lifestyles. So I hope that that'll be a part of this. I apologize if that comes across negatively or critically because
No.
I get it.
That's well taken.
But no, thank you so much.
Fine.
Thank you, Representative. Number 14, Representative Spencer.
Thank you. I'm looking at the paragraph that starts on line 28, the whereas paragraph. It talks about the closing of mental hospitals. Obviously, closures of any hospital, of any type of communities that are rural, especially in the rural areas, we have an issue of access. I guess the question would be, are you going to be discussing the issues of mental health access availability in areas that are underserved? That's number one. And I also would like to point out, and you may have to have a discussion in your study committee about the Certificate of Need program. There was a study that came out of the George Mason University last year that basically looked at Georgia and the effects of CON on our availability of hospital beds, and hospital beds could include mental health centers, and it resulted in 13,000 plus beds, fewer beds in the state of Georgia as a result of having a CON policy. I'm very much a proponent of access to care, especially in the rural areas, and I believe that this study showed no relationship between the CON and the progress as it intended for access for the poor. So there is no relationship that CON yields more access to care, and in fact, it's inhibitory. So it's something that I would like for that discussion, hopefully, in the study committee would come up, because we really need to tackle that policy and decide if this is really something the state of Georgia should continue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Prince.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to thank the lady for bringing this very important topic to our attention and the willingness to study it. I do have a little concerns just with the actual makeup of the creation. I think here we have I think the chairman talked a little bit about it being a joint study versus a house study, but he can talk a little more about that later. But
Well, I want to make sure that you guys have the correct one, because I did go back and change it to be a house study, and the one that I'm looking at is LC 410778S.
we got the wrong one.
So I have copies of that, because that was the last one that I discussed with the chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
And I did change everything, so it's not a joint study committee, it's a house study committee.
Okay, great.
So everything
you're
is
thinking
pretty much
for
the
us,
same.
and we appreciate
We
it.
appreciate
Thank you. And while we're passing out and looking at it, your Representative Alexander and I talked about this. We're trying to match all of our study committees up so they're similar, that they'll have 5 members. The speaker will appoint all members, as he should, and of course he designates one chairperson, all that. So they'll all match, and they'll all be similar in their construction.
Yeah, well, in this one here, again, and we talked about it a little yesterday, the makeup of this type of committee, I understand it being 5 members of the House, but I'm not sure if we have that, the requisite to help get in deep into those decisions on mental illness and things like that. And I know we can always bring in experts, but having an expert on the panel or on the committees is
We have opted, Representative, not to do that in these study committees, but to be the chairman of that committee that did, like you said, would bring people in to be, because these are, the membership should be just us. And there's a few of them that are a little differently, especially the joint ones that are done with the Senate, like on entertainment. There was a few specific people on that one. But so we're working off 410778S, and thank you, Representative, for having that right one. We appreciate you for that. Anyone else have any questions? I've been looking for someone to make a motion. Number 9 was what you want to? Push that button. There you go.
It's good. That is the appropriate time, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I move that we give a due pass recommendation for resolution, House Resolution 1093.
Pat, got to
By
be passed
substitute.
by substitute.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Saying that right. Passed by substitute. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Hearing
Thank you, Mr.
none.
Chairman.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, committee members.
You get a gold star for having that. We sure appreciate you. It saved me a lot of time. Okay, next one we'll look at is House Resolution 1605. It's by Martin. We all heard Representative Martin in our last meeting. We'll not have to say another word. He said them all. And this is about regional transportation solutions. I'd love to have a motion for due pass on due pass. Thank you, ma'am. A second? Got a second there by Ms. Betts. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Any opposed? No. No. Moving. Next one is Sam Teasley, not here. Okay, 1606 should be the next one in your group. The affordability of burial services. Representative Teasley has asked to look at this. It's been a number of years, like he says, that it's been looked at as the cost rise, and different options have really emerged. He felt, and they felt, and everyone felt that it's a good time to take a look at pricing, especially openness, and that goes along with this that affects and will affect all of us. I heard that. Okay. Any committee have a question? I think first one was Dominic LaRicca. Yes, sir.
All right, I just got to make sure that my friend and sweet mate Patty Bentley is on the committee. And if I need to put it in the language of this bill, I want all y'all to let her know I said that. And so I wanted to be the first one to mash my button. I know Representative Spencer, but I just, I have trouble trying to tell and look at what anybody charges anyway. I'm a kind of a free market guy, but if we are going to study it, she needs to be at the table.
And Representative, I believe that she would make her case quite clear to the Speaker. I think next was Representative Spencer. He waves. He must have said the same thing. Number 8, next.
Okay, I concur with that. I guess I'm looking at this and with having some conversation with Representative Bentley and understanding her packages. So when the study committee looks at this, they're looking at costs, but will there be an opportunity, I guess, to create some commonality around the state? Because the packages that Representative Bentley offers, we can't get in the metro area.
The packages, meaning?
The cost.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm saying, so when they're looking at it, are they going to look at it, what it's costing in general areas, or will they possibly come back with something to say, this is what may be around the state? So
I don't think that if I read this right, that's what this is doing. I think
Okay.
you look on line 13, it's consumers may lack information, plot use associated lands. I don't think we'll ever find us in the position of dictating what private business is charging. Number 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, it does also say here about, it touches on 15 and lines 15, 16, 17 about monopolistic practices and increasing opportunities for competition. I guess I'm reading that correctly as part of their...
You're reading it correctly.
Okay.
I wish
We don't have anybody here to answer
Teasley
anything, do
here
we?
to discuss that. I believe he'll have an opportunity to make this case.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'd like to entertain a motion to do pass on House Resolution 1606. Representative Spencer does. A second. Scott. All those in favor, aye. Those opposed, no. Just moves on. Thank you. Next, we're calling up House Resolution 1577. This one's laid on your desk. It's not in your folder. It was underneath, which should be on your spot. Representative Thomas on minority participation in the film industry and creating a study committee to look at it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and members of this distinguished committee. I am honored today to come before you asking your support to create the Housing Study Committee on Georgia Minority Participation in Film and Television Production Industry. And if you would, I would like to just give a little bit of background. First, I'm going to give a little background on myself, and then I'm going to give a little background on how this came about. I actually own a site in the city of Atlanta that 3 films have taken place at. It's an old building, and so people call me all the time about using the site. And so by that, I've had some experience where I've got a chance to talk to some people in the industry, and they've been on our site. And so that's one thing. And so also I serve on the Economic Development Committee, and with that, we've gone to different studios and sort of seen some of how things are set up. And we, in going, we noticed that there was not as much minority participation as we felt could enhance, because this is a approximately $6 billion industry. But then let me go from the perspective of the legislation. We have here one of the co-sponsors of the bill, Dawkins Hagler, and she is chair, as you know, of the Legislative Black Caucus. And also, obviously, Winfred Dukes and Doreen Carter also signed off on the bill, but also made sure that that the chairman of the Economic Development Committee signed off. And when he signed off, he said it's about time that we kind of look at this. And so I was happy for his response. But what happened at the Legislative Black Caucus meeting is individuals throughout at least Metro Atlanta came, and they began to talk about the industry. And so Dee received a lot of feedback from people very much interested in being involved in the industry. And so I want to thank Dee for presenting that forum, because it was packed. The room was packed, and there was a lot to be said. And so just because I'm a little old school, I would like to say that I did invite people to come, just in case they want to, some people from the community to come, and just to say a word on their experiences. And I don't know, Mr. Chairman, is it okay?
I'll ask the committee to ask you questions first, ma'am.
Okay.
And then we'll call on them.
Okay, thank you.
Are you
Yes,
ready
I'm
for a
finished.
question? Representative Dukes, I think number 9.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Thomas, I really want to thank you first for bringing this resolution. I think it is high time that we do begin to study, at least give people an opportunity to know how you have access into this industry and how you can participate. Your involvement in this industry, how do you feel that it would not only impact the metro areas, but areas outside the state?
Well, really, when you think about it, there was some legislation dealing with the film trails, I think Representative Stevens brought up yesterday. So really, it's almost no part of the state there that the film industry is not impacting. Obviously, some of the most known places would be in Conyers because of Heat of the Night over a period of years, but then it has to be the coast because of Savannah always have a lot of films. And in the metro area, you can be held up with traffic at any moment with a film going on. And as I was coming in, there was one in the Castleberry Hill area. And so I think that it will have a wide impact on persons for economic development and job creation for those who traditionally have not been involved. What I want to do is I want to commend the Film Commission around putting in place the Film Academy, because that is a step for people to be involved. But I think that it will have impact throughout the state of Georgia.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Or sir, pardon me. Next would be Representative LaRicca.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When they start looking at this about minority participation in the movie industry, do you have some ideas of what you constitute an appropriate percentage of people or individuals that would, I mean, what, is there a target number? Is it 20%, 50%? That's question number one. The second question I would have is the percentage of participation by minorities would somehow have to have the ability to quantify based on the type of movie that it is. You know, I growing up kind of old westerns or whatever, and then I'd go with my buddies to watch a car racing movie or something, and it was totally different participation. And so I think that would be a little bit complicated to try to figure out because of the diversity of the movies that are out there. And the last thing is, I appreciate you bringing this for a very simple country boy reason. When I watch TV and I hear them fussing about minority participation in the Oscars or whatever, that we don't have any Oscar nominees, I want somebody to let the country know that there are states like Georgia where we want to do it right, and we're going to do it right. And in many cases, we already do it right. But thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. As I'm speaking now in my mind, I don't necessarily have no particular concrete number as to what it should be. But what I do know is that the state of Georgia has really been making steps towards diversity anyway. So what we're believing is that that we would just be able to open up opportunities. So that at the very minimum, we may look at goals, but not anything in concrete. And so I do appreciate your interest and support.
Thank you, sir. Representative Spencer.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I like your pink outfit.
Okay. Make me blush.
But I do have some questions. I'm on the coast, that's my district.
Okay.
And so we definitely have, we see the impact of film in coastal Georgia. So I want to kind of get some substantive questions. In lines 11, it says remove barriers to minority participation. But when I'm looking at, when I'm, as a layperson not in the film industry, I don't have any, interest in terms of, that type of deep interest in the industry. I see, filmmakers and producers like Tyler Perry. I see very prominent actors like Will Smith. I mean, I could go on and on. But when you say barriers, are you talking about the actual how you make a film and you bring in, production studios, technical jobs and things like that? What exactly are the barriers that you think are there that are prohibiting minorities to participate in this industry? I kind of want to flesh that out a little bit.
Okay. Well, I thank God for Tyler Perry because he has opened up a lot of doors in terms of participation by minorities. Well, one set of barriers would be you just don't literally know how to get in. All you know is like when most people see a production team on the street, the average person has an interest in it because everybody likes movies and anything that's on the stage. And the average person that passes by any type of production, the question is, how can I get in that film? How can I get in? But not only how can I get in as an extra, but how can I get in at a higher level where maybe I can get behind the scenes of the other camera, maybe I can be a director. I know that one thing about this industry, they have pretty good wages in this particular industry. And then I noticed that I see unions, a lot of unions, sometime on the spot, maybe with the trucks and different things. And so that means that maybe a person would feel if they're not in the union, they maybe could not get into the system. But also another barrier, and some of the people who are here are going to talk about it more specifically, But even simple things as when a film is being done in a community, it's really up to the local area, I believe, to get the word out to the community that the film is coming. And if they give adequate, even simple thing as adequate notice that the film is coming, there might be an opportunity for maybe a local caterer to do the catering for the movie. Also, if people know early enough about it, then not only sometime the traffic or whatever it may happen, but people just need to know what's going on, not just in our communities, and see whether or not they can impact, funds. In other words, it's like what happens in life, you have two different concepts. You can have a concept of self-determination, which where a person comes in to build houses in your neighborhood. And one train of thought may say, well, it doesn't matter who builds the house, just as long as the house gets built. Well, that's one train of thought. But a more self-directed thought would be, if home builders are coming into areas, then maybe they can include some people in the community to maybe be a part of the development, so the money does not go out of the community, but some money circulates in the community. So it's sort of a type of concept of movies are happening everywhere in Georgia, and because of that, all hands should be on deck and to share in the prosperity, because it's not, if we can keep up the tax credit that was in place, and I was in place in the legislature when the first tax credit was passed that sort of accelerated the industry. Representative Smiley was one of the ones who sort of was out front on that as well. And so it's everything as simple as I was saying with the catering, as well as people who are carpenters. They have to build sets. There are people in the industry that are great carpenters, but they don't know how to get in the industry. And there are people who are actors who don't know. It's just big and beautiful, but people don't really know how to get in it. That's it.
And also, Ms. Top Representative Thomas, I think we need to take some credit too here. Our technical colleges, especially have really stepped up to, I think, break down the barrier that on education, so those people can get into some of those high-paying jobs that you're talking about. I mean, we've done, I think, just in the last 24 months, they have really accelerated, and our technical college has done a great job doing that. Any other committee members have a question? Okay, you have two people who would like to speak. They can come join you beside you. I believe they're the same company, Terry Vaughn with Nina Holiday Entertainment and Cass Seegers. Is that right?
Yeah, and we also have, who's just coming, I don't know if some of you may know, this is Maynard Jackson's son. He's also in the film industry.
Just hang on. Let's let these two go, and then
okay.
I'll be glad to. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Hello, thank you for having me.
And just tell us who you are.
I'm Terry J. Vaughn. I'm an
Thank
actress. I've been an actor in film and television for the past over 20 years. I moved to Atlanta from Los Angeles about 7 years ago, and I've been blessed to continue on in my career as an actor, but also as a producer and content creator for film and television. And one of the things that I have seen here in Georgia is absolutely that the film industry is growing tremendously, but because of the lack of knowledge of people here, when the movies are brought here, they still hire outside of Georgia and fly people in to work. And I do understand that some of the colleges have classes, but without the hands-on opportunity, they're still not going to hire them. And we would love to, get this passed for at least a committee to start doing the study so we can find out ways and solutions to where we can create jobs here in Atlanta. And I plan on staying in Georgia, and I plan on still having a thriving career. So I would love for this bill to pass so we can find ways where we can keep jobs here, because that not only helps me, but it helps my peers. And I wanted to answer one other question that you asked, and I'm trying to remember what it was, because I was over there and I was like, she needs to say this, and I can't remember what it is.
You can come back if
I
with
can't
your
come back.
partner.
Let me let you go.
You'll remember, it'll come to you.
Hi, I'm Wendy Ely Jackson, and I am one of the principals of Auburn Avenue Films here in Atlanta. I am a native. In my 46 years, I've watched Georgia grow tremendously, first in the music industry in the late 80s through the 90s, and of course now we have the burgeoning television, film, and digital space. One of the things that we have been noticing, I've been doing this since I was 22 years old. I started as the director of movies and miniseries in Culver City with Sony Pictures Television. So I'm happy to see Georgia grow, but I'm also, and I've done a lot of big corporate commercials here as well, and now I've got 2 projects at HBO and 1 with Netflix as an original series. My biggest concern is that although I agree with Terry wholeheartedly, we are doing the training. However, it's like any other entity. People are looking for people not only with the training, but with the experience. And then you have a bit of nepotism as they are crewing up. I had an opportunity, and one of the persons that sits on the board of our company is a producer and director named Malcolm Lee. And he did 2 movies here actually. One of them was Scary Movie 5. He also did Barbershop 3, which opens, shameless push, April 15th. And it was done right it was done right here in Georgia. And in our discussions with him, one of the things that saddened him, because his roots, as well as his first cousin Spike Lee, are right here in Atlanta. And he said, Wendy, I had less than 5% minority participation on both feature films. Those feature films, of course, have a direct impact on not just Georgia, but the greater Atlanta community. There are, to quote, a shameless quote from Maynard Jackson, we're not looking for a handout, but we are looking for the opportunities. So just give us the opportunity and we can get the job done as well. So to speak to a certain number, and I know that there are a lot of different things that are factors to be considered, but I personally believe that 25% minority participation for diversity and inclusion, and that does include women. That also includes all kinds of things when you talk about a diverse production crew. It would help Georgia so much to put us so far out. The state of Louisiana is working very hard. We took a lot of their business. They want that business back. North Carolina as well. So this is an opportunity for us to, as the gentleman spoke, it's an opportunity for Georgia to show that we're not just having an impact, but we continue to be a progressive state. We continue to want to see and welcome minority and female participation and inclusion. But if we don't offer the studios see green, and if we don't offer a certain incentive for them to be able to recognize, okay, we would love to see minority participation, not just in front of the camera, but behind the camera. Ms. Thomas talked about the carpenters. It was more than carpenters. There are people that fix shoes, the people that own dry cleaners. I have to commend the Georgia State small business community for stepping up SBDC, a program which I participated in with the University of Georgia. And they were able to identify a lot of vendors to show those vendors how they move from being in their place to how to get into the industry. So some of those things are in place, but the access is not. The access is just not there at this time. So I hope that you'll take in consideration to really look at passing this to do an in-depth study on every film that comes through here. In my neighborhood right now, Netflix is doing an original series, and the only person of color that I could see on set was the security guard. So there are a lot of talented workers out there that move beyond, and there's nothing wrong with that, but there's a lot of talented workers. Persons like Ms. Vaughn has moved here. I have a lot of friends that have relocated from New York and Los Angeles and different places that love Georgia, and we want to continue to hashtag choose Atlanta and choose Georgia. Thank you.
You wait. Okay. Any other committee members have a question? And you had someone else you wanted to bring to speak, ma'am?
Hi, good morning to you, this distinguished panel, and thank you, Representative Thomas, for inviting us.
Yeah.
Oh, my name is Maynard Jackson III, the son of your former mayor of this great city. And I'm just delighted that this bill is, has found its way before you guys. And it would just be a great banner for us to be waving as this industry is burgeoning in our great state. And as you know, my dad, this was an issue that my dad championed, and just back in the 70s, just getting access for minorities for contracts. The most famous one being the airport. So this is something near and dear to my heart. My wife and Terry pretty much covered the gamut of it, but as far as a number, yeah, 25 would be great. My dad liked 33. I think he kind of stopped the whole participation until we reached that. But 25 is a great start. And let me just say, my dad fought for equal rights for all people. The way he broke it down to me, I'll just tell you a personal story. We as black people, we have to look out for ourselves. First and foremost, because we're, coming back from, several setbacks in the last 400 years, right? But that being said, we still want to look out for the rights of everyone, of any color or creed and nationality. And that includes people of lower income, status. It was mentioned that they just don't know the routes to take. So I think this would be a great step in the right direction as far as showing the routes you could take. You mentioned the education is making strides, and I just think this would work very synergistically along with the education that's going on, that's making strides in our state. So I just would like to urge each and everyone to consider passing this. This would be great for our state, especially with this other bill kind of lingering, the HB 757 that I guess is on Governor Deal's desk. I would urge each of you to kind of slip him a note saying to be delayed. Okay. You guys invited a grandson of
Okay, let's go. We got questions from a committee member, Representative Larica, for you, Mr. Jackson.
I'm sorry.
You have a question from one of the committee members.
Just kind of a closing comment, really, and I apologize that I must have drank too much coffee this morning or something. I'm talkative, but I was having a conversation. I'm just going to kind of paint you a little picture here of a similar conversation. I was down in my district, and we were looking at a building that was being built, about a $13 million allied health building in our community. And I was talking to a lady, and she was sort of on the presidential campaign topic and began talking about Miss Clinton and women, how much money women made, and what jobs they could have and so forth. And I said, well, I'll give you a good example. I said, there's about 200 workers working on this allied health building right now. Work trucks, air conditioner people, whatever. I said, you go find me 5 women. 0.
Right.
And here's why. Women aren't out there looking for that job with iron and steel and electrical and heating and air. They're just not.
Right.
And I said, that's not an issue that we can fix with government, is to encourage or even create sort of a corral type of a method to force them into an industrial maintenance, mechanical, laborious type of a job like that. Now, there are women that will do those kinds of jobs, but typically the big construction projects, whether it's a condominium or an allied health building or whatever, you just don't have many women working in that field. So one of the reasons I brought up the type of film You mentioned Netflix a couple of times, and there was some where there was some low minority participation. And I get very nervous even having this conversation with you now, because the perception might be that I don't get it. But at some point, we have to have the real conversation with people who spend millions of dollars to produce movies and pay these people to come and erect these sets, about what's most economical for them to create the maximum amount of profitability at the end, and who's going to buy the tickets and pay to see it, and those kind of conversations. And we have to be very careful that government does not try to intervene in that process of the cost to produce a film, from the set, the catering, everything, the actors and actresses, to what they hope to make at the end. So I hope that kind of makes some sense, but there will be some very real conversations that has to take place when you start telling people or studying the fact that, why don't you hire, certain kinds and colors and genders and ages of people and that kind of thing. And so, again, I hope you hear my heart in that. It is one of those topics I want us to study and show the rest of the nation that we care for sure and want to do it the right way.
Well, I do hear you, and I thank you for that question. One thing I will say that I've learned about the film industry, I'm kind of a newbie. I've been on the job training for a year, and so another shameless plug. We're working on the Maynard documentary, so that's what I've been on the job training. But to your point, this industry, as I've noticed, is very big on equal rights. That's why I've been just so kind of nervous about this HB 757, because if it passes, you're going to see the air come out of the Georgia film balloon, if you will. So for us, now, let me just say, I think you're to be commended for just talking about it. And if a lot of people could, if we could just get people to get over and get past the nervousness. You just kind of like talking to your kids about the birds and the bees, We all know that time is coming where you have to have that conversation. So it's good to just get it out there, right? That being said, I can say, and I think I can get the okay from all these people over here, is that they get scared when they see rights being infringed upon. So for us to say, open up the doors for people that don't have access, I don't think that would hurt or harm the industry as far as them reaching their bottom lines and making the numbers work. I think I'd like to let them come speak on that a little more.
Just thank you for bringing it up. On a film set, on a film production, there are, like we said, caterers, cleaners, directors, camera people, hundreds and hundreds of people to make a film. And it's based on ability only. So that has nothing to do with skin color, gender. It has only to do with ability. And I think what we are trying to address here is opportunities should be open to everyone who has the ability to do it, regardless of race, age, gender, any of that. And I think that's what we are addressing. Of course, when you're making a story, you have to stay true to the story. And those are the people in front of the camera, absolutely. But behind the camera, nobody sees who's behind the camera, so that's all about ability. And ability comes in all shades and sizes and ages and everything. So I think that's mostly what we are trying to address with inclusion of all people. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up was, oh gosh, what is wrong with my brain today? I have 3 kids and one of them is 1. So they take all my brain power.
Yeah, we were here to midnight, so.
Oh my gee,
and I was,
same thing. I get it. But I just wanted to say that it's really important I think that if Georgia takes a stand on this, it's huge it's an industry that has been dealing with and trying to address the diversity problem, which it knows it has, and that hasn't been a secret, and they're not quiet about that. They know there's a diversity problem. So this isn't anything that we're just assuming or making up. And for Georgia to be the one and lead the pack in addressing that problem, because it can be addressed and there's solutions that can be had. And if Georgia chooses to be that state that stands up for it, I think that's huge, given how the industry has grown here and just given the history of Georgia itself, and which is really why I'm excited that I live here now. I'm really excited that I live here now. And I'm excited to see how the industry is going to change based on what we do here. So that's my plea for passing the study committee.
And as I just make a chairman's comment, remember, we're talking about breaking down barriers for access. I think let's keep our comments to that, be helpful. Representative Winford Dukes, number 9.
Mr. Chairman, I was going to call for the question.
I want to not accept that motion this moment. There's a bunch of lights flashing up here, and I appreciate it.
Okay, well, being that the case, I have something to say. I mean, like you say, we were here last night at 12 o'clock, but if we want to talk about it, we can do that.
Well, Representative, I adopt the Alan Powell method of committee work, that people should be able to speak, and I'd just like for them, the committee members, to ask the questions that they've punched in. Go ahead, please.
I sure will. Questions and observations. I first want to thank my colleague for even broaching the subject as to
Oh, we got 2 on. Sorry. There you go.
Thank you. For even broaching the subject as to access, because I think the thing that is critical is that what this resolution asks for is to see how we can remove barriers. And the removing of barriers, typically when you remove barriers for someone, you typically remove barriers for everyone. You see, no one here in Georgia, this is new to all of us. We don't even know how you get into the film industry. We have no history of our kids or our neighbors or our friends serving as contractors to movie sets. I'm a contractor. I have no earthly idea how to get in this industry, how to make the approach, have seen sets. It's pretty, I've looked at the construction. You know, when I walk in, it's the first thing I do. I don't care where it is. I look at the construction here. You know, they got fluted pine for column covers. That costs a lot of money. But when you go into a set, it's basically the same type construction as it is in a house, except it is very, very mobile. So you get a chance to reuse the same materials, seems like over and over again. Our construction industry in the state of Georgia needs to know how to do that. How do we do that? And once we pose that question, whether it's for inclusion, it provides an answer for everyone. And women just don't like to do welding. I'm in the construction business. But we would make sure that they do have an opportunity to have access to it. And that is what this bill addresses, and actually the entire inclusion piece addresses. I didn't grow up being a construction commercial contractor. I learned how to do that. I learned how, and it was a high cost to do it. I went broke 3 times. But I paid for my learning. I don't think the people of Georgia or our citizens should have to endure that, particularly in the film industry and even in construction, so that we can have access to expand opportunities. So that was my observation, but I really would have appreciated my motion.
But I think, Representative, what you said was well said. Thank you. Representative Spencer.
I guess, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sort of, when I look at issues like this, you know, access, minority participation, I look at the economic issue here, because that's really what this is about. Everybody wants the opportunity at the piece of the pie. So my question is, and any one of you can answer this, is do you believe diversity is profitable?
Oh, yes.
Yes, okay. And if so, do you think the government should enforce it then if it is already profitable?
Well, I don't think there should be enforcement, but because I think I don't know how Dukes knew to say it, Representative. What he said is that inclusion for one person really is inclusion for everybody. So once the industry is going to expand anyway, and so I think that it's not like we're not necessarily running through a conversation of mandates, but we are going through a conversation of inclusion, and that inclusion will open the door for many people. So it's not going to be that type of.
Okay, thank you.
No. Only because time and
Yeah, we're running
all night.
Any other questions for the representative? Representative Dukes, I'd like to recognize you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Look, I move that we, first of all, I want to thank Representative Thomas and her guests for enlightening us on a very real issue here in the state of Georgia. But I do move that I move that we accept House Resolution 1577 and ask that it do pass.
Think you have a second? Ms. Marie. All those in favor, by aye. Any opposed? No. Thank you, ma'am. You're on.
Thank you so much.
And that's it.